ago, I paid my my lunch on chain effectively, and people right now every minute, every sec, or kind of every are doing transactions, are doing their payments, and ideally they will not be interrupted at all by an upgrade, and that's not a trivial task to have a chain, have a system run on hundreds of computers across the world, 24/7, always have uptime, not a single second or not a single minute of downtime. So yeah, blockchains are, or kind of need those extremely high, well, a good blockchain should have this extremely high level of reliability, of resilience. Yeah, so Gnosis Chain right now, one of the bigger use cases is Gnosis Pay, all kind of stablecoin and simple DeFi primitives. A big project that will start or is coming very soon is Circles and our new wallet Metri. Just today, an hour ago, we finally announced the launch date of Circles. That will be in 21 days, on the 21st of May. So that's really the thing we are looking forward to, and where we want to have the chain in great shape, because as we know from the past, usage can go up and down dramatically, or can also kind of from one moment to the other explode. And then of course you want to that's to some extent also why you invest years of work to be ready for to ultimately serve users. So yeah, we are happy that we believe we have a chain that's extremely stable, that's extremely reliable, and that is because of lots of hard work from lots of client teams. Very proud that we are one of the few chains besides Ethereum that is supported by numbers of clients and numbers of combinations of clients, which both creates complexity but also ultimately creates resilience and stability.
And I'm also really proud to say that we are the only ones able to even apply these changes ahead of Ethereum, which I think is very remarkable. As probably most of you remember, when we initially started Gnosis Chain, we also wanted to give the promise that we would be able to effectively front run Ethereum. And I think back in the day, we underestimated the complexity that comes with operating a network like Gnosis Chain and being able to apply significant changes to it. So initially, we were not able to actually fulfill this promise, but now, not for the first time, but for next time, we are able to actually apply those significant changes first. And I think as such, we also contribute value to Ethereum, providing even more reliability to this change coming to Ethereum very soon as well. So yeah, very proud of the work that you guys have been doing, being able to have not only one client, but multiple clients being able to apply this change at the same time. And very excited to see this now happening. In regards to Gnosis Chain specifically, I think the first phase of Gnosis Chain was really mostly about providing the core infrastructure that is needed, the substrate for others to operate on, making sure that we have like basics like block explorers, Etherscan available, have RPC providers available that can actually power applications. And now the last few years already, now we developed our own applications that can run on top, like what Martin mentioned, Gnosis Pay and Circles and Metri. Also working on Gnosis VPN and among many, many other things, actually. And I think we are now at the stage where those have reached significant maturity. As Martin said, Circles is about to go finally live. Metri is in a great state to go, to reach a much larger audience. Gnosis Pay just over the last weekend became available in Brazil. And also Apple Pay was finally activated. So I would say all of the things that we have been building have been reaching a level of maturity where we can feel comfortable giving it to a large audience. And that kind of brings us into the third phase, which now will be mostly dealing with adoption. So this will be hopefully leading to the ultimate stress test of the network, meaning we will have to increase the number of users significantly that are using these applications. The focus of Gnosis itself will go much more in the direction of how do we actually get distribution and adoption. So we can really, let's say, maximize the benefits that you guys already provide by having a very reliable substrate. And that will, I think, then hopefully, let's say, hopefully in the sense of we get this adoption, then it will also be a nice stress test to see what we still have to work on. Potentially, user numbers will grow as large that will require to do also significant changes on the application layer again, specifically talking about layer 2s. Potentially, we'll have to actually start also operating layer 2s on top of Gnosis Chain in a way that it allows to outsource some of the computation, specifically looking at into Circles, but also hopefully Gnosis Pay. This will be necessary. So we are very grateful that we have a very reliable network. I think it has been one of the most reliable networks out there, which specifically is, of course, relevant if you want to do like applications like payments. You cannot have a network that is sometimes online, sometimes not. It has to be just available. And I think we have been, or you guys have been proving that we are able to provide this. And everyone has been praising the reliability of Gnosis Chain. And now it's just about making sure that we also use it as much as we can.
Excellent overview. And it's great to hear about the current state of the Gnosis and what we are doing and for the wider communities. Right now we are going to dive into the Pectra hard fork. I'm inviting Philip here, and Philip will provide more detailed, comprehensive details about the Pectra and what we prepared. And let's welcome to Philip Schomers to give us details and some exciting announcements.
Hi everyone, thank you Arman. Now I'm going to talk very quickly about Pectra and its EIPs. I don't know if we can share my screen maybe. Okay, perfect. Now those are basically just all the EIPs of Pectra. Now, honestly, I'm not going to go through all of them. They are very interesting, but a lot of them are kind of just optimizations that no one will actually really notice at any point. So I'm going to focus more on the validator EIPs and the user-facing EIPs. But here's a list of basically, let's say, optimizations and changes that will make it easier to update in the future. For example, this last one here, add blob schedule to EL config files, basically just means that you can easily update the blob schedule. So basically for Ethereum mainnet, we're going from a target of 3 blobs per block and a maximum of 6 to more than that, right? And on Gnosis Chain, we are saying the same. But this will make it easier for the next hard fork, basically to say, okay, now we want to do a target of 10 and a maximum of 20, for example. But it doesn't have to be the case, of course. Now, for the more interesting EIPs, in my opinion at least, we have the execution layer triggerable exits. So those basically make it possible for the owner of validators, so the withdrawal credentials, to request an exit and also withdrawals. So this is interesting because there can be some issues. For example, let's say you have the GNO or the ETH and you delegate it to someone who creates the keys for you. At this point, like for example, if you were using Stakewise or Lido or any of those providers, but in a less efficient way, let's say, imagine you have a friend who creates the validators for you. You delegate the GNO or ETH to them, but then they would basically hold access to your funds. So they would never be able to withdraw them or to steal them from you, basically, but they could basically prevent you from getting them back, which would obviously be very bad. Now with this EIP, you are now safe. You can at any time, if you own the funds, just request them back, exit the validators, and get your money back so you're safe. So I think that's very interesting and very important for everything related to stake pools, stake providers, and well, basically everything related to staking. The next part, which is one of the biggest changes, I think, and that is very, extremely interesting, again, for validators specifically. So currently on Ethereum, you have to stake 32 ETH, and on Gnosis Chain 1 GNO. But with this EIP now, you're able to go from 1 GNO to 64 GNO in one single validator. What does that mean? Basically, well, we're making the network a lot more efficient. So instead of having, let's say, 350,000 validators like you have right now, we could consolidate it to have like 50 times less, for example. So that also means 50 times, more than that actually, way less traffic on the peer-to-peer layer, way more attestations to sign, so it's more efficient for your computers. You use less bandwidth, less memory, less CPU, basically less of everything, so you can scale more as well. And of course, you have way less keys to manage. So for example, if you have 1,000 GNO nowadays, you would have to create 1,000 keys, distribute them on your validators. It's just a hassle. With this new EIPs, you could do 64 times less, or let's say 50 times, so you can also have auto-compounding, but I'll get back to that later. So instead of 1,000 keys, you'll have 20, which is way more manageable. Now, this also changes that basically in the past, if you had 1 GNO validator, as soon as you got rewards, they just counted for nothing, and you wouldn't basically get the APY on those rewards, right? So after some time, they would just get withdrawn from your validator to your execution layer address. So you can spend them if you want or create new validators at some point. But now they actually auto-compound. So if you have 1 GNO on a validator, after 1 week, you'll have 1.0 something GNO, like around roughly 10% APY per year. And now it will automatically continue to increase until you request basically a withdrawal when you want to spend them. It's also great because now you can create validators in between, like, for example, on Ethereum, you had 32, let's say you had 60 ETH, right? You would be able to create one validator with 32 ETH, and then the 18 remaining, you would not be able to use. Well, the 28, sorry, I'm messing up my calculations. Anyways, so you would not be able to use those ETH, which would be very bad because you are not earning anything on it, right? Any yields. Now you can create validators with anything in between 32 ETH and 2048 ETH. So it's just way more easy to use, way more flexible, auto-compounding. It's just absolutely amazing, including, of course, the performance upgrade. Now, as I mentioned before, the blob throughput increase. So on Ethereum, the blob count is being increased. On Gnosis Chain, we decided to not increase it because it's not really used that much on Gnosis Chain. So we wanted to stay kind of conservative on this side. But of course, nothing prevents us from doing a hard fork at any other time to just like a very small one to increase the blob schedule. Now that the EIP I mentioned before, so EIP 7840 was implemented, right? Now we can very easily just update this whenever we want. For example, if there's some L2s in, I don't know, 2 weeks, then we can just do a hard fork in 1 month and then increase this if we want to. Now, the last EIP I want to talk about, I think I'm already over time, but it's EIP 7702. So what this allows to do basically is to have an EOA, so a normal Ethereum or Gnosis Chain account, have, well, basically it can now execute random code, like if it were a Solidity contract. This is awesome because you can, for example, do batching. Let's say you have 100 transactions, you can now, instead of doing them 100 and signing them individually, do them all in just one single batch. Or you can do way more complex operations. We will actually have some demo, if the demo gods permit, of course, later during this call that will combine well, some stuff for max effective balance and this EIP 7702, just to show you how on the developer side you can actually take advantage of this and also demonstrate, of course, the max EB changes. Now, in addition to Pectra, we are also announcing that we are launching 2 new clients in alpha versions, which are Wrath and Geth. Wrath has been, well, both of them actually have been worked on internally, just a fully internal Gnosis effort. Geth has been mostly led by Guillaume Ballet and Wrath by Debjit, so a local hire basically. And both of them are going to present the clients they have worked on and why they are good, why they might not be, I don't know. Let's just see what they are going to say basically. So
let's invite them then.
Yeah.
And welcome, Guillaume and Debjit. Can you hear me perfectly? Yes,
I can.
All right. Yeah, it's a really exciting announcement. We would like to hear more specifically about Geth and the red details on Gnosis Chain, and I will hand over to you, Guillaume, first.
Yeah, thanks. Very happy to be part of this fork. It's been long in coming, but we finally have Geth on. On Gnosis Chain and able and on time for a fork this time. So hopefully there won't be any screwing up this time. I just checked the timestamp. I scared myself a second before the stream, but everything should be fine. Telling you about Geth, I don't know if I can. I don't have a lot of time, so maybe I can't really show you much. Share screen, maybe I can. I don't know if it's gonna work. Yeah. So very briefly, you can see mainnet is ready. I have Lighthouse here ready for Electra. I have Geth who keeps importing the chain segments. So far so good. You can see that I'm actually doing Shadow and mainnet at the same time and on the same machine, and both take less than 6 gigabytes. So far so good. I don't expect any surprise there. And another thing. Okay, now that people are watching, it's going up. It's going to 7. Going to grow up, of course. But what I could see also looking at the database dump that I did this morning, the state is almost 700 gigabyte, and most of it is receipts and blocks. Right, we have a 5-second block time. So I think after Pectra, there's a lot of innovations coming to Ethereum and any chain derivative, of course, which means that we will be deleting history, and I think Gnosis Chain is going to benefit a lot from that. I've been talking too much, so I'll leave it to Debjit, but fingers crossed for the fork.
Yep, fingers crossed indeed. Hi, so I am the guy working on Ret, and just to give a little intro, Ret started out as a completely independent internal project last year, and we were hoping it would take a lot of time for it to reach mainnet or for it to sync live. But we made some decisions because of which it got faster. Specifically, we chose to ignore pre-merge stuff, any pre-merge logic. And so it just imports a state at merge, and then it only deals with the post-merge stuff. So yes, I mean, Ret is a fast client. It has for syncing, it reaches gigagas speeds, etc. But there are several features that's pending. For example, allowing snap sync for even faster syncing, or even ERA imports from other clients. Those things are upcoming as soon as Pectra gets released. The goal over the longer term is to have Ret as the fastest, snappiest, and for me, most importantly, the easiest client to run. Which, I mean, I know it sounds counterintuitive because Ret grew out as an effort to increase client diversity. So we are not competing with other clients. But yes, the goal is for it to be the easiest one to run. As Philip mentioned, both the Jet is very internal. Even at this moment, we are only proposing blocks on Chiado, and we don't have validating blocks running on mainnet. But we have some blocks, like we have some nodes running on mainnet, tracking them live. And as soon as Pectra reaches, we'll start, we'll add them to validators, etc. Yeah, I think that's it from my side.
Thank you, Dab. And I think this is the super insightful update, and I'm very happy to use Red and Get. Maybe first the Get, and then Red. Let's hand over to Giulio from Erigon to tell us about the Erigon 3 and Kotlin. I'm inviting Giulio here and his presentation.
Yeah. So hi everyone. I'm very happy to be here in this special moment. So I just thought I could just come here and just kind of present what we worked on for the past years in Erigon, and how we finally came to our current iteration of Erigon 3. And what does that mean? So first of all, Erigon 3 was designed to have extremely fast sync times, to be a very good archive node, to have very fast RPC, to have a lower latency, especially for chains that are very big. It's kind of designed for big chains, but it also works very well on smaller ones. And yeah, we just focused on making archive nodes runnable runnable at very, very low cost, essentially. We also decided finally to optimize it for staking. A big problem that Erigon always had was that it was an archive node, pretty much archive. It was designed to be an archive node, and it wasn't really made for staking. But we finally fixed it. We essentially optimized every single part of it that was critical to staking, and now it works. It's a much lower bandwidth. It syncs fast finally, and run usage is 32 gigabyte, but can even be 16. That's actually what we recommend, but it can actually run with 16 as well. So as I said, we switched to our own version of SnapSync. Now we have static file states. So state now it's like history. It's distributed in static files. So you can do very cool things with that, but most important, you can sync. You essentially can import them as if they were blocks, which is an interesting property. And unlike Ethereum, we use BitTorrent. We don't use SnapSync, but that's because it's incompatible with the SnapSync protocol. So yeah, also we have also introduced a minimal node which is completely optional. It's basically what the node would look like under AP4 Just for reference, it would be at the time of when I made this presentation, it would have been 300 gigabyte around for Ethereum and 91 gigabyte for Gnosis. It can be run optionally. It's not on by default, of course, and it can be used by a validator if you really have a very low-hand machine and you still want to stake somehow. Yeah, we also have faster RPC by implement something called history granularity. Essentially, if you want to do an intra-block transaction, you can just you can just get the state of the transaction, and it's much faster. It basically improved our latency for RPC by almost 10 times. In some cases, it's one of our probably the biggest improvement for users because users use RPCs, so it's now much faster. Your request takes much less time to be processed, and we fixed latency on chain tip for staking, and just for reference, this is what it looks like essentially, right? It was made on a somewhat so you can see Erigon 2 was kind of quite bad at just running the chain. It was sluggish. Erigon 3 it's much faster. This was run on one of my least powerful local machines. on which I also run right now my Gnosis validators. But yeah, you can see that the improvement is massive. Before it was not really good at all. Now it's final. Now we can finally stake decently. And yeah, so yeah, also the cost on a node is lower because we essentially decided, because as I said before, since we can basically treat state as history, you can essentially just keep a really little state on a fast disk and keep all of the non-changing state on a slow disk. So essentially, the real state, the effect of state growth when it comes to write is essentially the one that would have been when the state is only 20 gigabyte, essentially, right? We basically dampen a lot of the bad effects of state growth. And this is actually why it works really well on big chains. Maybe, and yeah. Just show that, before it was 1.1 terabyte to keep the entire chain data. Now it's only 16 gigabyte, which it's a big improvement, essentially. So yeah, just for reference, this is what it looks like. So if you so you can see all of the entire disk footprint. So the archive node is 1.6 terabyte. The full node is around 900 gigabyte. We also use special compression for receipts and blocks, so it's much lower. That's why it's that low. And then we got the minimal node, which is just what would look like with the P4 It's actually kind of mismatched from the last slides. I apologize. I just noticed that, but it's fine. Yeah, and then we also have introduced an internal consensus layer, but I think I don't have any time left. I'm just gonna go over it. It makes interaction much faster with Erigon. It fixes some of our pain, and it was made mostly to make our user happy because it was not really even that much of a big effort to make, honestly. So it was really, and it brings us a lot of dev improvements and a lot of user improvements too, essentially. Yeah, that's it.
Big thanks to Giulio. Thank you so much for providing incredible updates for us, for the coupling especially. It's truly super interesting. Right now, I would like to invite the 8 staker guys, Remy and Buta, adding the stage. And they released the each staker deposit command line, and we also implement on the Gnosis chain. Say hi to Remy and Buta.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm going to be talking about our tool, eStaker Deposit CLI. We decided a few months ago just to take the original staking deposit CLI tool from the Ethereum Foundation and fork it to provide better maintenance and to add more features. And we decided to release this new tool. If you don't know about the eStaker Deposit CLI, it's a simple tool to create your validator keys, or in order to create some of these offline messages that stakers going to be using. And in order to support Pectra, we had to add a few features. I'm not going to go over all of the Pectra changes. I believe Philip did a great job there. But one of the features that you should know about is this new compounding or type 2 validator that you can have. And there's different ways to get there. If you already have a validator running on a network, it's possible to migrate to this new type 2 or compounding validator. But you can also start from scratch, and you can deposit fresh in order to start with a new validator and use this new compounding one. But the tooling was not there, and we added this new feature on the deposit CLI. So now you can simply create a new validator key and specifies that you want to use this new type 2 compounding validator type. And then you can also specify how much stake you want to put. So on Gnosis, you'll be able to decide between 1 GNO and 64 GNO if you decide to go with this compounding validator, and the tool supports this now. So that's pretty much it. There's nothing special about it. I'd just like to shout out to Kaze and Wagalidum, who were the Gnosis users, the community members who helped us with adding this new feature for Gnosis. We're not very in deep with what's happening on the Gnosis side, but we're happy to support you guys and keep this support in the long term. I also like to shout out to Valifar, who's been working with me on the e-sticker deposit CLI, helping me a lot with all of this new development and maintenance stuff.
Amazing. I appreciate that, Remy. Yeah, it's Staker community and Gnosis validator communities well know each other. Pretty much everything's doing same thing, and they're helping each other. Basically, the same community, not they are or a separate community. Basically, the same community. So having the each Staker deposit CLI is perfect for us, and we always try to improve our tool set and wider Ethereum. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm inviting the Luis and the Shutter team here. They will provide a Shutter implementation, which is called the Shutterized Gnosis Chain. And yeah, Luis here and Uri here. Welcome, guys.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes,
perfect. And can you see my screen?
I think yes.
Great. So yeah, thank you so much for having us. I think it's not really the topic of Pectra, but just but sort of tangentially related, as it is also pertaining to kind of the protocol level and sort of client stuff. And we have to deal with Pectra fork. So we're talking about the encrypted mempool for Gnosis Chain. Just very briefly, just recapping what it is and showing here in this kind of sort of the future of agentic finance way. It means what the encrypted mempool is. We are encrypting transactions and have them be signed and committed to, have the order and inclusion be signed and committed to by the validator while they're still encrypted, so that no one can censor or front run. And here we're seeing this, right? The agent sort of detects a front running opportunity. We're now switching over to our Shutter Explorer. This was very quick, but essentially we encrypted. We encrypted here, and we are now seeing it in this Shutter Explorer as submitted transaction, and then we are seeing it sort of the slot progression, and not all slots are shutterized because not all validators have yet are including shutterized transactions, but there was one. And then boom, we are seeing this shielded inclusion because there was a validator slot that included this encrypted transaction. And then this was a Paraswap trade here, mainnet, and executed it. And yeah, so that's just a reminder on the high level what the Shutterized encrypted mempool is. And then Ulo will jump over and give some just sort of status updates.
Yeah, hi. So yeah, at the moment, I start with the second line first, then the first one will make more sense. Currently, we have about 2.7% of the active validators, which is 8,003 at the moment, that are processing shutterized transactions. And that has led in the past, I don't know, 8-9 months, I guess, led to 4,300 transactions already being included, protected from front-running MEV, all that. On mainnet currently, Nethermind is the only client in operation that supports shutterized validators, but Erigon is coming soon. We have released an update for the keepers, which are this threshold committee that enable all the cryptographic background for Pectra support. That has also been released. In the past, we had some trouble with getting all transactions included due to some libp2p connectivity issues. That is mainly because there was and to some degree, there still is some mismatch between the Go and libp2p, Go and .NET libp2p implementation. Nethermind is in a very unfortunate situation there that they don't have a ready-made libp2p library to fall back on, but they had to implement all that themselves. So yeah, I guess there's some mismatch between the implementation still, but things are looking up. On Chiado, with the latest releases, we have a 97.5% inclusion rate, and we will be rolling that out on mainnet as soon as possible, probably this or next week. And yeah, we're continually in contact with Nethermind to improve the connectivity situation. Yeah, back to Lewis.
Thanks. And just sort of an outlook beyond the out-of-protocol encrypted mempool, how it's implemented on Gnosis Chain. Right now, as we're seeing this sort of holy trinity of censorship resistance emerging. It's Mark, I think, called it that. And it is kind of the idea of if we can, if on mainnet or even Gnosis Chain as well, if we can have enshrined PBS, fossil, and encrypted mempools, that they really reinforce each other, and we can have, so think about kind of really an encrypted transaction is probably encrypted transaction going in via fossil is probably kind of the best, kind of most censorship resistant transaction that you can think of. So we think that this should be kind of built on, be in a protocol hard fork, in protocol implementation. And we're very excited about this to make really Ethereum more fast, more fair, more trustless. Publishing a post on this very soon, and we also have just recently have a joint talk accepted at Protocol Berg to talk about exactly that kind of vision. Yeah. Not sure if Mark wants to also add some things from his side or.
Yeah. So in terms of the Nethermind side, like as Uwe mentioned, we're working our .NET Lib P2P implementation, and the Shutter project has really like led to this being accelerated and worked on, which is a positive. So I think in the short term, like we're just going to see like continued stability improvements, and then in the longer term, like these bigger directions of like censorship resistance in the protocol, like enhancing the Shutter protocol. Yeah.
Yeah, and huge shout out to Nethermind team, Erigon team, who are the first clients to implement this. I think this will open really the potential for generally encrypted mempools for Gnosis Chain and Ethereum-like chains and other encryption types as well. So I'm really excited about this, just this idea kind of growing and it becoming a thing essentially.
Excellent overview. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for providing a Shutterized implementation on Gnosis Chain. I would like to thank you all. Inviting the Nethermind team here. We are very close to Pectra hard fork, and I would like to hand over to the Nethermind team to talk about their latest client updates, EIP 444, and some live dashboard demonstration. Marek and Kamil here.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So Nethermind is a supermajority client on Gnosis Chain. So it is a high performance client with very good support for validators. And by good support, I mean Nethermind is fast in processing blocks and syncing with very fast snap sync, sorry. And Nethermind also includes an implementation of Shutter, which was briefly covered before I speak. We contribute to research here. And one of the features that I'm excited about and is coming soon is history expiry. So most of the disk usage on Ethereum and on Gnosis Chain is being used by history, not state. And this data is not needed to process the new blocks. So if we find a decentralized way how we can store this history, we can remove it from nodes. And thanks to that, we will reduce hardware requirements for nodes significantly. And I hope, I think we are ready to do the first step, so dropping pre-merge history, and I hope we will coordinate it on Chiado and some Ethereum testnets soon. Yeah, and perhaps Kamil want to cover more about Nethermind?
Yeah, so in Nethermind, we really take a lot of focus on our stability of the client. So we have our built-in QA team and DevOps team to spend a lot of time testing a lot of scenarios and making sure everything works and properly. Hopefully will work as well on Pectra. And we also put a lot of pressure and a lot of focus on our performance recently, not only performance of block processing, but also performance of block building, which we have quite a lot of exciting features, exciting improvements in already on our master branch ready to be released. But after Pectra, not to mess before Pectra with some not yet battle tested features, but a lot of exciting improvements are coming. And also from when we talk about incoming features, and something we are right now working on is we really want to help Ethereum and in parallel help Gnosis Chain to be as performant as possible. So we are involved in many research topics about scaling gas limit on Ethereum, scaling block limits, checking the constraints which all of the EL and CL client implementations have. So we want to help everyone here provide as much data as possible to just improve together. And from specific Nethermind features, which we hope to deliver soon, is one which you can see right now sharing by Armageddon is our UI, which is built by Ben, our colleague from the team, which shows a lot of interesting data live, including logs, including transactions flow, how they flow, how blocks are being filled with how big transactions, if it is packed or not. So pretty interesting, very interesting insights, which I find interesting even before Pectra. I noticed a few interesting things which can be spotted here. And also one of the main focuses which we have right now is archive node, because we have great sync experience with SnapSync. We have very fast processing of the blocks on the tip, but archive node is still something which we really want to improve. We have already a project for that, an idea how to do that, and hopefully no ETA right now, but hopefully we will deliver it very soon. So we will be able also to be very useful as a archive node, so for RPC providers, etc. So that's from the upcoming features for Nethermind, which I have.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for providing super nice information. And I'm a big fan of this dashboard, to be honest. I saw it the first time in the Chiad artwork. It's super nice, super great. It's really
will be
thank
there with
you.
us today.
Yeah, we are waiting for the stable version. I would like to invite here. We are very, very close to Pectra artwork. I would like to invite here Lion and Philip again. Yes. Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Hello. We are very close, and I would like to hear your thoughts about this hard fork, especially Lion, because previously the hard fork process on the testnet side, we have seen Hudi testnet, we have seen a lot of different difficulties on the testnet side, and right now we are the first mainnet and applying the Pectra hard fork. What are your thoughts about this incredible process?
So first to check, is my noise good? My audio quality is good?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I think this hard fork has had the most unfortunate bugs during testnets, but that's something that can happen. We dealt with them, we fixed them, and I think everyone is now confident that we're going to be fine. This is probably quite a complex fork in terms of spec changes. That's the cause for all these bugs. But I think we understand everything really well, and it's going to be fine.
Yes. Any thoughts? Any additional comments about the current situation? I think it looks nice. Most of the validators has been updated their nodes before the hard fork. Today, Lighthouse has released a new client, but it's not super mandatory. It's good to have, nice to have to apply, but as far as I see, there is no mandatory issues.
Yeah, so in general, I think... Oh, go ahead, Len.
Yeah, just want to comment on the Lighthouse update. We are shipping some changes in how we deal with state, since actually the last major version where we switched to the famous feature of 3 states. And after the episodes of non-finality during Pectra testing, we lower the size of the state cache. So now the node can handle non-finality better, but as a consequence, it has much more frequent state cache misses, which means that you have to do work to recompute the states that you shouldn't do in the happy case. So now with this fix, we are increasing the state cache to the value it was before these incidents. So for the happy case, we're fine. And now we are working also on a really exciting feature, which is the applying 3 states to the hotDB, which would get rid of the side effects of the non-finality. So we can have the cake and eat it too. Or what's the expression?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, so in general, I think the hard fork is quite interesting, and there have for sure been a lot of issues with Todeski being down for a few weeks at least. I don't remember the exact timing. Some issue with Sepolia. But I mean, it's fine. Shadow went through the hard fork as the third client, I think, after Risk and Sepolia. I think the day after Sepolia, if I'm not mistaken. And we went through it without any issues. By luck, because we would have run into an issue that actually happened on Sepolia, which we managed to fix just in time. But yeah, to this regard, I want to obviously thank our partners and DEF, which are not directly partners, but of course are doing a ton of the heavy lifting for Gnosis Chain as well. So yeah, Nethermind, Erigon, and DEF, thanks a lot. I also want to thank Paradigm, because we did announce Wrath. It is a client, like the Gnosis Chain specific update is something we worked on internally, but obviously the Wrath client in its entirety is being built by Paradigm. So yeah, we just did the changes basically for Gnosis Chain, and they are responsible for most of it. As well as for Geth, we did the changes for Gnosis Chain, but DEF is obviously to thank, and the Geth team for all of this. So thank you all to all our partners. And now I'll maybe quickly give it to Hugo to show us some stats.
Hi. Okay. I was not expecting it, but
if not, we can also just quickly ask Line to explain what you're going to look for during this hard fork in terms of yeah, what are the success criteria, what we are looking for basically.
Yeah, so sorry, you asked me, no? Okay, so let me just I can show a couple of stats of what we've seeing right now on the network. So we recently partnered with Probe Lab, a team that does this peer-to-peer crawl of all of these networks, Ethereum and now Gnosis, with a weekly report. And what we see right now is that we have sort of around 65 to 70% of the nodes that we are able to crawl already ready for Pectra. And so we see a lot of the moves on the Lighthouse clients to the version 7.00. So if you actually, okay, yeah, if you refresh, I think, yeah, so if you go to Probe Lab, maybe Probe Lab tab, in the Probe Lab tab, we can, for example, on the second plot, we can go to Lighthouse and see the versions of Lighthouse that, so in the second plot, sorry, yeah, that one, if you choose Lighthouse there, Okay, no, that's the first one. The second plot, there is a drop-down menu, which is Erigon, and then, yeah. So we see the move from a couple of days ago of the Lighthouse clients go to the version 7.00. And which is now, it's the one that is Pectra compatible. And if we actually go to this tab that says clients, this is just a daily overview, but in the tab that says clients, if we go down, yeah, so we see there this fork. So this is sort of what the node, when we crawl the node, what is the next fork version that they announce, and so we see that yeah, there's been a move of the nodes in the network ready for Pectra, and this data is up to last day. So if we go to the current day, we see around sort of 65 to 70% transition. Maybe now more, I don't know. We'll have to check. Yeah, so that's, yeah. Well, don't look at that. We're still indexing execution layer data, so we're still in 2022. But for the peer-to-peer data, we've been sort of crawling this data for the last couple of weeks. So we're now monitoring in a daily basis the network, how many nodes we can see, what are the versions that they use, what are the clients distribution, and geolocation also. And so with time, this dashboard will get will give a better overview of yeah, the peer-to-peer network on the Gnosis side.
Makes sense. All right, we're, I think, 3 minutes away. Yeah, roughly 200 seconds away. So quickly, Lion, can you explain kind of what you are looking for in terms of how the hard fork should work, justifications, finalizations, kind of how all of that works?
Yeah, sure. So first thing we want to see is we want to have good participation, hope that the community came to the task and update the nodes so we don't have to deal with non-finality and its consequences. So as soon as we get into the fork in the first epoch, we'll get blogs with participation information. If we are well over 66%, then we finalize and then we're fine. We also don't want to see clients complaining about each other. So I'm currently piping the clients with grep for errors, and we want to see the screens empty for the fork. Any errors could mean any type of consensus split that hopefully shouldn't happen. Maybe we have some peering issues, but that happens sometimes in forks, and it's fine. As long as people eventually agree on what's fine and reconnect, there shouldn't be problems. Then for the specifics of the hard fork, the thing to watch for is the Neo ETH1 deposit mechanism. So in Pectra, we are replacing the existing bridge from ETH1 to ETH2 for inclusion of deposits inside of the block. So in Ethereum mainnet, that mechanism is going to take a bit to activate because the queue is quite big. But I think for Gnosis, it's not full at the moment. So it's going to take less for that mechanism to kick in. And the same. Hopefully everyone agrees. We don't have any consensus issues, and everything is fine. So to recap, we have this amazing dashboard from gnosischa.in where we can track progress. Yeah, this one. So here we want to see participation, blocks happening. So we don't want to lose liveness. Have high participation, justify the first epoch, then justify the second, then finalize, and no random errors. And that should be it. And I think then the Nethermind team is going to run a bunch of scripted tests to activate a bunch of features. And the same, we don't want to see any errors, any clients complaining about each other, or any funny business.
Perfect. Yeah, so everyone can, of course, feel free to open this website, so gnosischa.in. It might have some very slight delays, but should be fine. Let me check my countdown. Yeah, so we should be 24 seconds away. from the hard fork. We're not going to see this immediately here, but anyone running a validator or any node of any kind, feel free to check your logs. Should be done, hopefully, if you update it at least. So yeah, let's make sure we go through it according to plan.
Thank you, Philip. Yeah. Yeah, after the Pectra hard fork, maybe would like to see how max effective balance work on the Gnosis chain, and many validators curious about how we can use the max effective balance effect on the Gnosis chain. And yeah, maybe after that, if you demonstrate something, that would be awesome.
Perfect. So we can see that some blocks in the fork epoch have been proposed. So that's all great. Now we're going to wait a bit for, well, to check participation. The very first block was not actually proposed. I mean, that can mean a lot of things. Maybe the validator was not online or was not updated, or maybe there's some specific issue on that hard fork block. But seems like it's continued to progress nicely, so that's very good to see. Now our hopes basically are that enough of the network updated to attest those new produced blocks, which we will see in a few minutes, basically.
Yeah, in my logs, I'm seeing a bunch of peering issues, but that's kind of expected because we know that not everyone updates at the time. So if you don't update your node, what's going to happen is the node will think that we are outside of Pectra and create blocks and expect blocks to have a set of rules that do not agree with everyone else. So you're going to complain that the block that this peer sent is invalid, remove it, and downscore the peer and probably kick it out. But eventually, everyone just will split. So we'll have a fork going on with everyone that did not update and a fork with everyone that updated. And that's fine because that fork will probably be a minority. So you will just be stuck in this fork producing useless blocks. And whenever you update your node, you will just rejoin the proper fork. I think it's going to, yeah, it doesn't take a resync. So it should be fine. You just update your node and then you'll follow the right chain.
I was looking if there was some nice like ASCII art for the hard fork, but I also didn't find one on Nimbus, so there might not be one on any client at this point anymore. I don't know when this was dropped, but yeah.
Philip, you mentioned some at the hard fork call. You mentioned some Erigon updates, version 2 and version 3. Can you briefly summarize what we'll expect on especially for the DAppNode users who running an Erigon node?
Right. So for Erigon specifically, as Giulio explained earlier, they went from version 2 to version 3 with a ton of improvements. Now, initially, Erigon 2 was planned to be also Pectra compatible, but in the end, that didn't happen. So basically, everyone running Erigon needs to update to version 3 for Pectra. Now, we try to facilitate this a bit for DAppNode users, or I mean, the DAppNode team, of course, did most of the heavy lifting again. But basically, people running Erigon on DAppNodes have to update to the latest Erigon package, but also wipe the Erigon v2 volumes, basically. So they have to delete everything and resync from scratch. As Giulio mentioned earlier, it is going to be very quick, so less than 2 hours for Gnosis Chain. And if you haven't done it yet, please do it like right now for mainnet as well, because if not, you might not be able to sync in time. Now we can actually see right now that we got around 86% attestation rates or participation from the network on the fork epoch. and that we actually finalized. So we finalized Pectra. Everything seems to be working well. Now, I would say there is a fairly big part of the network that might not have updated because we went from, well, we dropped 4 or 5%, I guess, pre-Pectra and post-Pectra. Let's see if attestations come in maybe a bit late. But yeah, we have finalized the first epoch. We've justified the 2 next ones. So everything seems to be looking great. It seems like all client pairs have actually worked now. Well, maybe this red client hasn't. I'm not sure. I will have to follow up with that. Yeah, sadly, I don't have the logs here on this browser, so I can show this easily. But yeah, I got reports that all of them seem to be working. Let me quickly check. Maybe, Line, if you have something to say in the meantime.
Yeah, Forkmon seems to be fine, at least with the instances that we watch. Forky doesn't see any random forks. In my logs, I see a bunch of lookups. I need to investigate why, but it's probably the random blocks from the peers that are not following the chain. So I don't see anything concerning as of now. I just found there was a little bug on Lighthouse N for the subscription logic, but it's not damning. It's just like a log that we need to suppress.
Yeah, so sadly, like as we said, Wrath and Geth are just alpha resets right now, so feel free to play with them. I would not run any significant stake on them. We also are not monitoring them properly right now, but this is going to come very quickly afterwards. But yes, all our Nethermind and Erigon clients or client pairs are working nicely, so nothing to say on this side. I've also heard from Guillaume that Geth went through the hard fork. I mean, he says at least he is on some chain. I'm assuming it's the right one. Let's hope so. But yes, everything seems to be working well. Same for Lighthouse, Lodestar, Nimbus, and Teku. So all the 4 CL clients we support all went through the hard fork nicely. So now we're going to start testing consolidations. I mean, all the new features, basically. This is going to take a lot of time, so we cannot do this during this call. But yeah, it seems to be very positive for now.
Amazing. I think if anyone see on the command line Pectra upgrade message, please share on the Twitter or any platform. We will happy to boost it.
Oh yeah, any Nimbus validators, they always drop some nice art. So
I checked on mine, I didn't see one, so I'm not sure actually.
Should be there. And yeah, just like blocks seem healthy. We have transactions and attestation, so far so good.
Yes, the Nethermind team shared the amazing visual. Let me share here.
All right, can we move over to Nixo for updates if she's available? Or the next hard fork?
She's not in here right now. I'm expecting coming Nixo. Maybe we can talk about the max effective balance, and after that we can talk about the next hard fork Fusaka with some updates from the Nixo.
Good. I'm just quickly rechecking the Nimbus validator again in case I can find this ASCII art, but yeah, it doesn't. Oh, maybe is it when it finalizes?
Could be.
Well, I have way too many logs, so I'm not sure. But if I find it, we'll tweet about it, I guess. So yeah, for max effective balance, I think I mentioned all the important aspects, well, most of them already, but there is actually something very interesting that you, well, might have to do if you want to consolidate, which is basically if you are running already some amount of validators, let's say again 1000, you can decide to consolidate all those in 20 validators or 20 keys that all have 50 GNO on them. Now this process obviously is manual, so you have to decide, I want to consolidate these validators into this one, let's say. But we've actually already implemented some tools for this. I'm not sure if there are any other ones from DEF, but we have some tool on the deposit CLI of Gnosis Chain. Just 1 second, I need to find the links. So hopefully the demo gods will be with me today. That's a bad start. I'm on the wrong browser. Wait 1 second. Let me share a new tab here. All right. So the initial version we did for consolidations didn't use 7702 basically, because the thing is 7702. So this is the new EIP to be able to batch transactions, for example. This has to be supported by wallets. Now at the moment, in terms of like browser extensions and what you would typically use, only MetaMask enables 7702. And they actually have to do it manually per network, so it works on Shadow, but I'm not exactly sure if it's already working on Gnosis Chain because they have to do a manual operation. But yeah, without 7702, the issue is, let's imagine here we have an example with some validator who has 270 keys. You would basically have to go through every validator one by one, decide the consolidation target. So basically this is the validator that is going to accumulate stake. So this first validator would basically transfer its stake to the second one. But this would be obviously a very difficult process and would require a lot of transactions. So we came up with this UI. So imagine here you have, well, it's a very small example, but with only 4 validators. By the way, this UI is also, I mean, it's going to be tested first, and then we'll make it publicly available for Gnosis Chain, Shadow, Ethereum, Sepolia, and Toresti, and Hoodie probably as well. So basically all the networks. But the idea of this tool is to allow you to consolidate very easily using these batch transactions. So you only have to do a few transactions if you have a lot of validators, or even just one transaction if you have a smaller amount of validators. And basically it automatically defines based on how many GNO you want per validator, the ideal layout. So for example, I have 4 validators, that means 4 GNO, or roughly, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less if I got activity leaked or if I made some yield on it. But you'll see basically I want here that each validator has a balance of 2. That means in the end I will end up with 2 validators and 2 consolidation requests. So 2 validators will consolidate into another one. I will end up with 2 validators with 2 GNO each. Now, this example is a bit small. Imagine at 1000 keys, I would say I want a balance of, for example, 50 GNO per validator. In this case, I would end up with 20 validators and 1000 roughly consolidation requests. But with this tool, because it uses 7702, this is just one transaction, or for a very large amount of validators, maybe a few, but not 1000 transactions you actually have to sign yourself. So this makes it possible, thanks to those 2 new EIPs, to consolidate validators fairly efficiently. But yeah, I can try to go through the demo, but I'm absolutely not sure that it will actually work because MetaMask might not have enabled it yet on Gnosis Chain. So let's attempt it. Yeah, you can also, so Nixon was asking if you can also use this tool to consolidate Ethereum validators. Absolutely, it is already here, but again, MetaMask will have to allow for it, and no other wallet at this moment. So if you want to use Rabbi or I don't know, any other variant browser extension or whatever, none of them, as far as we can tell for now, support the IP 7702, which I understand it's a quite dangerous feature if it's not done correctly, let's say. But yes, in the end, you should be able to use this for Ethereum if your keys are run on something MetaMask can support. Welcome, Nixon.
Thank you so much. Is my audio okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So my name is Nixo. I work on the protocol support team at the Ethereum Foundation. The protocol support team coordinates a lot of different teams working on Ethereum upgrades. And so all of the client devs, all of the core developers work at different companies. And so they don't have like one person across them who manages what they're all working on. And so my team sort of like coordinates that. Tim Bako is our team lead. He runs the all core devs execution layer calls. And all those calls decide sort of like what is going into the next upgrades and what they're currently working on, what they're implementing. And just to note, this process will be slightly changing after Pectra because the calls are being split into sort of more modular calls. And so one call will work on implementation, one call will work on scoping the next hard fork. There'll also be a research call that is not run by the all core devs people, but that's going to be like far into the future things. So let's talk about Fusaka, which is the next fork. That is Fulu and Osaka, Fusaka. The scope of it has largely been decided. You might have seen this week that there was a huge blow up about one feature that was removed from the fork, which is EOF. So right now we have basically one headliner for Fusaka. It's PureDOS, and what PureDOS does is it samples data for blobs rather than downloading the whole set of data. And the reason that we can do that is because all sorts of complicated cryptography and math that lets us basically securely decide that like a sampled portion that the node downloads is equivalent to making sure that all of the data is available. And what this does is this makes room for like future upgrades that will consume more bandwidth and like require more hardware. And so we're lowering requirements at the same time that we're trying to introduce new upgrades that raise the requirements. So we're trying to keep the validator set as decentralized as possible, so not kicking any of them off by introducing new upgrades that add bandwidth requirements. The other like sort of headliner, so that PureDOS is the Fusaka headliner. That is the thing that everybody is very intent on. We don't slow this down. We want this out as fast as possible. But the other thing that people are excited about is blob parameter only hard forks, which these are called BPO forks. And this will sort of be slid in. And what it will do is we'll be able to say, you know what, L2s need more blobs, which they're all asking for right now. They're all saying like the number of blobs that we have right now is not sufficient for the load that we plan on using. So this will allow us to basically schedule increases in blobs between the major hard forks, between like Fusaka and Glamsterdam, and then say that we have a blob increase every other month or so. That'll be on a set schedule, and we can just monitor that. And if something is going wrong, if bandwidth is increasing too much, or if some other unforeseen consequences coming out of that, we can sort of remove that. But this will dramatically increase scaling, because that means that these are automatic, that developers don't have to include them, they don't have to like think about them, they're just scheduled. There are a bunch of other EIPs that are, so those are the only ones that are scheduled for inclusion. There are a bunch of other EIPs that are considered for inclusion, and considered for inclusion is sort of, it means that it's very likely to go into the fork, but basically people who are testing the fork are going to start implementing this, starting DevNet, starting working on it, and then once it is scheduled to go into a DevNet, then it will be moved to the SFI, to the scheduled for inclusion status. The reason that they don't want to put this all in to begin with is because it's really complex adding features to blockchains, and like it's much easier to just add things one at a time and make sure that they're working correctly before you add a bunch of other features, so you can minimize the number of variables that you're working with. Some of the other things that are going in, a lot of them are just like really technical things. Like there's a new opcode going in that will make things less complex. It's called the pay opcode. There are going to be upper bounds for modXP, and modXP is the operation that handles like large exponentiation calculations like signature aggregation. Transaction gas limit, so that's how much gas in a block a single transaction can use, so it's not monopolizing the whole block. The modXP gas cost increase, the meter contract code size and increase limit. I don't know what that means. I'm not a developer. There are two that are going in. There are two that are CFI that are 7762 and 7918. This is essentially talking about the minimum blob base fee, because we see that the blob base fee goes down a lot when the network isn't being used very much, and then it just takes a really long time to get back up and actually be charging fees for these things. And so these are two EIPs that are either or. So these aren't both going into Fusaka, but they've both been CFI'd so that developers can choose which one they want to go with. Anders has a really nice post on 7918. Anders made like a little storybook that talks about 7918 as a metaphor with people selling apples. I encourage you to go look at that. It's on his Twitter account. Anders Alausen, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I can give that link to, I can give that link to somebody and they can drop it in the YouTube chat. I don't know. Yeah, and there's also an RIP going in, which is a roll-up improvement proposal. I don't know anything about roll-up improvement proposals, so I won't say anything about that. But yeah, that's essentially what's going into Fusaka. And I think it'll ship, well, developers are really intent on having that ready to ship by the end of this year. And by the end of this year, to me, means by October, because if it doesn't get shipped by November, by DevConnect, it's not going to ship till like February of next year, because there's a lot of like all of the developers go to DevConnect, and then the holidays happen. And so I'm hoping that we get it out by October. Developers are pretty intent on that, but who knows?
Thank you for those insightful details about Fusaka and the whole the preparation timeline, Nixo. Yeah, before we closed, if you have any thought, any final comments about the Gnosis Chain Pectra hard fork, feel free. Then I will close the whole stream. And
I will say, great job on getting things out before Ethereum Pectra. I feel like this makes a lot of people feel a lot better, and I'm so glad that it went smoothly today. It finalized super quick.
As we are as well, definitely. Yeah, so maybe we are kind of realizing the vision now to be the canary network. Obviously, there's testnets and devnets and everything that are testing everything in time as well. But being a mainnet and having, more geographically distributed nodes and everything, I think it's actually very interesting for us to hard fork a bit earlier and make sure that everything works, hopefully at least. And yes, so I'm seeing one question in YouTube, which is about the consolidation UI. So the consolidation UI is great. I'm assuming it only works when all of the keys have the same deposit/withdrawal address. Yes, they do have to have the same withdrawal address. Well, for this specifically, I'm not sure actually if you can consolidate a validator with, well, two validators with different withdrawal addresses. If it is the case, we will implement it.
Yeah, I can tell you on Ethereum, at least, it is the case that you can consolidate validators with two different withdrawal addresses. And I will say that that was misunderstood for almost a whole year. And we didn't realize that it was misunderstood by a lot of people until like a month and a half ago.
Okay, well, this definitely makes things a bit more complicated, but we will try to implement it as best as we can, because we want to make this a tool that is actually useful for Gnosis, but also for Ethereum, of course.
So I wanted to add that with the Pectra hard fork, Gnosis has a big opportunity because until now, the deposit size in Gnosis was very small. And that was on purpose to allow anyone to participate in the network, even if you don't have a large amount of money like Ethereum, you need 32 ETH. However, the issue is that the Gnosis chain runs a bit faster than Ethereum, and we end up having a very large validator count. So running the network was relatively expensive. So it made those small validators unprofitable unless they deposited a significant amount of GNO. Now that we can consolidate, if we have a very significant portion of the network agreeing to consolidate, which seems to be the case, we can very significantly reduce the resource consumption of the network in terms of disk space, RAM, and bandwidth. Like, we're talking, I don't know how much, but maybe like an order of magnitude. So it's going to be very significant to make stakers operation much cheaper and allow these small home validators to participate with very small deposit amounts.
Thank you, Lion. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's an ongoing goal to make the chain as friendly as possible to home validators. And yeah, I still think that's one of the one of the many things that the chain is special for, having probably out of all blockchains the lowest requirements. Or to me, it's still always a big question: what does it take for you to be able to propose blocks and create blocks? And to me, that's still a crucial part of how decentralized is a chain. Can you answer the question? What's the answer to the question? How difficult is it to become a block proposer? And on Gnosis, I think it's probably one of the chains that is live where the requirements are the lowest. Small note, definitely again, congrats to everyone involved. If everything works well, then it looks so simple, but yes, it's a lot of work to make it so smooth. And again, we also have seen that with some issues with testnets before, that it's not a God-given thing that those hard forks work smooth. It's a lot of preparation and a lot of work. On the side, while you guys were presenting, I actually tried small feature. It's one of the smaller EIPs, is that you can access a little bit more of history, so you can access historic blocks within a contract. And I can confirm I was able to deploy such a contract and access historic state, which can be useful for all kind of things, for light clients, or for if you want to access historic price data, or just whatever. It's a small thing, but just side note that I was able to do that. Stefan, you are also going to say something, right?
Internet issues, but hopefully it works. Yeah, no, just want to also congratulate you all. Like, it was, I think it went super smooth again. And I know there's a lot of work and coordination required. And I think we're very glad to have this talented team of multiple clients working together to accomplish this. And I think now also Ethereum will be able to confidently apply this hard fork. So thank you all. And yeah, looking forward to the next hard fork.
Thank you, Aman. I mean, Aman is played a crucial role in, or is playing a crucial role in, well, Philip, or I mean, many names, but also here leading the call. Want to definitely mention Aman.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we all team members, we did this call. Basically, they helped me a lot. I just tried to coordinate everyone. So yeah, thank you for joining this call. That's bring us to the end of the Pectra hard fork live stream on Gnosis Chain. Massive thank you for all speakers, all incredible teams working behind the scenes, and most importantly, all of you joining for today. We hope you found these sessions very informative and engaging, and also we are celebrating right now. We need to celebrate this massive hard fork. So stay tuned for more updates on Gnosis Chain, and I would like to thank you for all. See you. Bye.
So.